What chapter?
Huh?
Chapter?
Chapter 17. Let's see. All right, today is Wednesday, February 21st, 2024, and this is my little Bible study. We are finally back in the book of Revelation. Now, I had a whole bunch of notes set up for this, but somehow I magically erased them just before we started, so here we go, winging it, which we shouldn't have too big a problem winging it. Let's just face it, we wing it quite often about many things. Yes, my boy? Oh, we're here talking about the Bible. Okay, Father, we ask as always that this open eyes and open ears in Jesus' name, amen. All right, we're back in chapter 17. We're talking about the Babylon and the fall of Babylon in 1718. Now, this time around when we started the book of Revelation, this was the chapter on the first lecture that we spent a lot of time in. It names a lot of the symbols, so we're not going to spend a whole bunch of time on symbols because we've been using them since we started the book. But we'll just kind of explain them because there are probably some people watching on Facebook that this may be the first time they see anything. We're going to draw out some other stuff. Like I said, this is a repeat for us, so we're repeating it, so we're going to do it again. And it doesn't hurt. I don't know how many times. Like, I honestly don't know how many times I've been through that first third of the book of Genesis. And I mean, every time you do your homework, something new comes out. And it just so far it's never ceased to do that. The book of Revelation is a lot like that too. But I have a special affection for the book of Genesis for some reason. It's just one of my favorite books out of all of it. In particular that first third that everybody kind of scared. Okay, so let's just pick it up with that. Now we're talking about Babylon. Now we've been seeing the symbols all the way through, and we'll just discuss them as they come up again. All right, chapter 17, verse 1, it reads, "And there came out of the one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters." Now, we know this is the whore of Babylon. This is none other than the Antichrist and his role. The thing about this beast is if you don't understand the three heaven and earth ages, you don't understand that this beast was from the first heaven and earth age. I mean, this is the same political structure that Lucifer used in rebellion against God to try and pull the whole first heaven and earth age down. All right, and if you look at it from that way, God could have destroyed everything then, all of his children, and started over, but he didn't. He just annihilated the age and started over with a new age, and that's being born in the flesh. But it doesn't matter if it's the first heaven and earth age or this heaven and earth age. It's the same beast. It's the same leader, the same political structure, and that same identity as the Antichrist or that false prophet that the Antichrist is used to fool the world, right? All right. But nonetheless, he's going to, in here in a minute, he's going to tell him, don't worry about it. I'm going to explain what all these things are anyway, all right? So we'll get to that here in just a minute. Verse 2, "With whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication." Now, we know this is a spiritual fornication. We've worked this backwards, forward, sideways, all right? This doesn't have anything to do with adultery within a marriage or anything like that. All that, of course, is readily forgivable under the Christian covenant, upon repentance. So, so this is that spiritual fornication, and it's the same example that God's been using since the garden, between a man and a woman, and how you feel with adultery. Well, the way God feels about adultery is exactly how he feels about idolatry, which is spiritual adultery.
Yeah.
And that then forms the fornication because of what's been going on, because of this prostitute that's from Babylon, right? Verse 3, "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. That's the same 10 horns, or same that 7 heads and 10 horns that we see in that example, no matter that we've seen consistently in that example since we started studying it. All right. Of course, we know this is a political structure. We know that these 7 heads represent 7 nations, right? And then these horns become rulers. And we'll cover that just a little bit more as we go. "And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, colored with, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication." Anytime you get that color purple and scarlet, well, that means royalty. I mean, that always means royalty. That's how the Antichrist feels like it's always what he's wanted. I mean, he wanted everybody to worship him as God from the first heaven and earth age. He wanted to sit on the mercy seat. He wanted all those things, and in this age, he's pretty much got everybody eaten out of his hand at this point. I mean, so he should feel pretty good about his work up to this point, but it doesn't end so well for him. Verse 5, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Right there in her forehead, this place that all the children were supposed to be marked with the seals, place where people will receive the mark of the beast. But in her forehead, that's who she is, Babylon the Great. All right? And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus Christ. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. This great admiration is not in a positive sense, it's in a negative sense.
Fear.
Yeah, it's more like, oh my, how did this happen? He's wondering how did he get this far? When you read it, it kind of like, oh wow, how wonderful. But no, that's not what it is. It's very negative. It's oh no, how horrible. Is more the admiration type, right? Verse 7. And the angel said unto me, wherefore dost thou marvel? Question. I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carried her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, the thing I will point out about this, and like in the book of Daniel, okay, in this and in the book of Daniel, is that once you have a symbol interpreted for you, it's important not to change it. All right? And you'll see a lot of people do that because they'll read these symbols, but they don't bother to read much more than a couple of verses attached with it, and they think they understand what it's saying, so they come up with and invent their own, this is this thing, this is these things, right? And that's how you really get confused. Yeah, almost always in prophecy, it gets interpreted somewhere along the line. It doesn't leave you hanging, and if it doesn't, it's a general thing that shows up in prophecy a lot, like mountains, or even the 7 heads and the 10 horns.
Beast,
when you, right. These things are all in the same way that holds true with them. But nonetheless, like I said, but first age, this age anyway, 7 heads, 10 horns. It's always the same beast. Right? And the same beast is always, and the same one's always in control of the beast, whether it's called the scarlet woman or whether it's the red dragon, that's always the same Lucifer, right? Verse 8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, okay? The beast, this one that's 7 heads and 10 horns, the one that's a structure, this political structure, right? It will go into perdition first, okay? Let me show you. Right, let's go ahead and finish this verse, and then I'll show you. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they beheld the beast that was and is not and yet is. Now that was, is not, and yet is. It was in the first heaven and earth age. It's forming now, all right, and then it becomes a reality in the future very quickly. All right. Now, the first thing that goes into perdition, well, actually, that's answered for us in chapter 19 of this very same book. Listen to what it says, because that beast and the false prophet, they have a special sentence, all right? And the beast, the same one that we were talking about, this is 19 verse 20 of the book of Revelation. The beast was taken, and with him the false prophet, that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. Okay, so right there at the beginning of the millennium, all right, before the millennium even gets away, Lucifer is stripped of these powers, these 7 nations. You'll never have this political structure again. Was in the first age, earth age, is in this one, will not be in the third.
Daddy?
Yes, buddy?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm in the middle of something. Oh, hi, young lady. How are you? Well, you can sit down and join us if you want. She got keys too, huh? Oh, man. Yeah, you can take these with you. They can go with you. Yeah, I'm you can bring them back, maybe. All right. Let's see. All right. Now, first heaven and earth age, right? He won't have. So, first thing going into the millennium, does that beast, the seven nations, is taken away, and then his authority that he has is the Antichrist, is the false prophet. So, false religion and then an evil political structure, he will never have them again at that point. Because if you remember, at the end of the millennium, the people that weren't justified at the beginning of it, they have a chance when he's loosed one last time for a short season at the very end. And after that, that's Judgment Day. After that, yeah. Just think about this. With the second advent comes the transfiguration, right? You're back in your spiritual body again. You don't have flesh hang-ups. You remember things as they unfolded. And to think that after 2 heaven and earth ages, that there would be anyone that chooses to follow this tracker, it boggles my mind. And so I think it chalks it up to maybe there just is evil people. And there are some people that just will not live in peace with others.
Yeah.
And I think that's just probably where that cookie kind of crumbles, to be honest. But nonetheless, on the first day of the millennium, all that is done away with. We won't have to be burdened with it ever again. Man, it won't be used against you for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so that was that. So let's go back to where we were in. Where was it?
17.
I'll tell you. 17, that's right. And we are.
6.
Yeah, you're good. You're in 6. 17. No, we already did that.
7.
No, we're like 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Foundation of the world. There we are. Yeah, there we are. So, perdition. That's what it was. And the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Remember when the angel opens it up, causes a big smoke screen, all right, and go into perdition. So that's the first thing that's destroyed, that political system and the opposite Antichrist. All right. The people that are going to wonder, there's a lot of people don't even know what it means, the Lamb's Book of Life, from the foundation of the world. They get confused about books and think that everybody's in that, but that's a special book. All right? And the foundation here is the word katabol. It's a Greek word. When you deal with Greek in the New Testament, you're going to find at least 2 words that are translated to foundation. One of them is themeleos, and the other one is this verb katabol. All right? Themeleos means a foundation, like a substructure or substrate that's placed into the ground. But this one doesn't. This one means that these names were chosen from before the casting down of the world. Right? Yeah, so it's a completely different book, and because we don't understand the 3 heaven and earth ages, this is overlooked, what this means. And you see the word foundation in English, it's one word, but there's 2 Greek words that it's translated from, and that's one of the things that illustrates how important the Strong's Concordance is. When you actually want to understand what is it talking about, you need to be able to determine these differences, right?
Yeah, the translation.
That's right. And this is one of them that pays to know, because this is a big deal.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll get to exactly when these were chosen. It's going to come out here again here in a minute. But just remember, this was those from before the cast. What katabol means, before the casting down. All right. Verse 9. And here is the mind that hath wisdom. All right. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. All right, this takes us all the way back to that common. A mountain is what? A nation, usually in prophecy. All right. Zechariah is the one I always like to use because it's so blatantly drawn out with those mountains of brass. You know it's not an actual mountain. You know it's a symbol.
Yeah.
We don't have mountains of brass anywhere on the planet. So you know you're looking at something. That's why I like to use that one there to help translate this exactly to what it was. All right. Verse 10, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. We know from Revelation chapter 9 that short space that he continues is 5 months. That's all this king of Babylon has to reign as the Antichrist. Nothing more.
Yeah.
So, that 7 years, that's a long time, but he said because of the elect's sake, he will shorten the time, and he tells us exactly what it is in Revelation chapter 9. Just all you got to do is go read it. As a matter of fact, it says it not once but twice within about 2 verses, just so you get the emphasis of it. All right, so let's talk about these kings. They have 7 kings, 5 are fallen. All right, so they're gone. So it doesn't really matter. Even if you can figure out who they were exactly, it really doesn't matter because they're fallen and they're gone, all right? All right. One is, and the other is not yet come. Well, we know which one that one is. That's that same woman, that prostitute that we started to chat just a few verses ago, right? All right. And one is not yet come. When he will, when he makes his appearance as the Antichrist, right? Now, like I said, these 5 kings doesn't really matter because they're history and it's none. But yeah, usually you pick out stuff like Alexander and things like that.
Right.
And all those different ones that you could qualify as an Antichrist type. Like Hitler would even be one, I would think. I mean, it may or may not be one of those 5. But it's historical to Daniel. Like when Daniel was understanding it, he understood, okay, wait a minute, there's going to be 5 kings. And it was like the Medo-Persian War and Alexander. And, you know, it's just a system of kings that rolled all right up to the current one, I think. But nonetheless, but the one that you really got to worry about is one that does not yet come. And when he does that's the one that you need to worry about. And that's that little horn that Daniel also spoke of, or the Antichrist. All right? Verse 11, the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, so that political structure, all right, and is of the 7 and goeth into perdition. All right, now all these are pretty much earthly kings, you know, except for the Antichrist. Listen to what it says here in verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings when they are with the beast. Well, these 10 kings that don't have any power yet, why? Because they're fallen angels. And when they show up, they get to play their role as kings on earth. All right? So he brings these bad bears with him. Welcome, you're right back into the days of Noah. Just before I lost my Friday night gig, we were getting ready to do a whole nother special just about the days of Noah. I have it all ready to go if I don't erase it. I can touch something and go poof, bye. Yeah, but yeah, we were getting ready to really dig into all the days of Noah, all that fun stuff, right? Yeah, it's a good one ready to go, though. We'll do it as a special just for fun. All right, but nonetheless, these bad bears, they receive in the hour of temptation. That's that 5-month period at the end of time, at the end of this age. I shouldn't use end of time because that's not what it is. It's just the end of this age. It may be the destruction of the surface of the earth, but the earth's still here. And it's the time that changes into a new time. All right, verse 13. And these have one mind and should give their power and strength unto the beast. So they're all working together as a group. And if you remember, these old boys don't really like their boss. They know now that they're dead, and they followed this guy to their death. And up until now, in your spiritual body, you don't know what it means to die. You've never known those words. I mean, I think that has a little bit to do with what this age has to do with, probably so we can understand, oh, wait a minute, this is a final thing. This doesn't come back from this, right?
Because before you could have told us that. And
we wouldn't have no way to understand what that meant. But these boys, they all give their power all unto the beast, and that's what animates it. And they make that image and begin to worship the beast. Verse 14, and these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and Kings of kings, and they that are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. Now here's where we're going to have to start working our strong, probably to know this a little bit. First of all, this is the battle that they call Armageddon. This is the one that leads right into the millennium just before. And then at the end of the millennium, there's another battle. There's a couple of battles, Gog and Magog, and together they're Hamagog, and they happen at the same time in 2 different locations. But any of those wars, we don't really fight. God fights them. So they're not something we really have to sweat when it comes to that. Now, first thing I want to talk about is what's the difference between called and chosen. And one of the best ways to do this, of course, is dig out your Strongs. All right, and we're going to be working verse 14, and we're going to take word called first. In your Greek concordance, your Strongs, it's 2822. All right, and it's kletos. All right, and it means like to be invited. Okay, and it comes from 2821. And that's klesis, all right, and it's a shortened form of 2546 to invite, all right. The 2546, It's akin to the base of 25. Let's see, I told you this one went on for a while. 2753, it means to call. All right, but then when you take it all the way, finally, you get it to its root. All right, and it's kaleo, and it means to urge on or to hail. All right, so someone who is called is simply someone that God hails, or someone he urges on. Come to me, my children, things like that. Hey, an invitation, but there are to entice, in other words, to entice by words specifically. And most people have at one point in their life heard some type of salvation message, and that's usually where they start their Christian walk traditionally. Let's just put it that way. I mean, I personally think that you get more people to convert to true Christianity by teaching the Old Testament than you do from the New Testament. Because if you don't understand what it means, that New Testament leaves you kind of out there wondering. It's just a list of rules of do's and don'ts, but you don't understand why.
Why does it even matter? Follow what these people taught.
That's right. That's right. But you understand that when you get it with the Old Testament. But, okay, so to call to someone is to entice them. He said to entice them with words, pleasing words. Salvation is upon us, these things like that. Okay? Now, that's a little bit different from the other word, which is chosen, which is eklektos. All right? And it means to select, which is completely different from call or to urge, right? It comes from 1586 in your Greeks, and it's eklekto ahi. All right, and it comes from two words, and we're not going to track them. We will one of them. That's right. Which means to select. I will do both of them probably. 1537 is the one that I like because it splits there. It's X. All right, and it means it donates like a point of origin. So from origin is where it's talking about. That's how that's where that one splits. But the other half of it is 3004. And it means to lay forth. So the chosen ones were laid forth from origin. And that makes sense when you understand the three heaven and earth ages. There's a difference between someone who is simply urged in this, would be all born of flesh, yes. He calls equally to all people, but all those that were called to are urged by words. He's taken some of them and he's laid them forth from origin. And that's the difference between called and chosen. But the only difference that the things you got to remember is between those two, they make up the group that Christ himself calls the faithful. All right? And so you have two kinds there. Not just these people that came of age in the first heaven and earth age, but here you have another whole group of people that listened along the way and were actually converted by the urging of words. Well, it's just kind of a neat little system. But it's important, I think, that people understand that those are the two differences, and they both are there at the second advent. They're both standing there with Christ, both types. It's not because you get one group or a couple groups that like to run off the deep end with 144,000 and say, well, see, that's the only ones out of all of God's creation. And if that's so, then he wasted his time through two heaven and earth ages when he has trillions of children.
He could have just kept
that's been done with it. Exactly right. That's right. But the whole point of this age is to regather all those souls, particularly those third that were lost, those ones that stand real tight with him. Man. Because of the condition that most of the world is in right now, I agree with the thought that most of that third are now alive and in the flesh.
I would agree.
As we speak, as we just have so much chaos and just no respect for life at all, and there's so much of that going on. I can't help but think that those third. That's you got to remember that makes this last generation specifically designed for them. So, we'll see how it ends and how it goes in the end. All right. But it's important to understand that you don't be trapped into that idea that it's just those that were sealed out of from before the foundation, because it sure is not. All right. Verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked. All right. That's those 10 kings, right? They don't like their boss, right? Because he's drugged them to their death, and they know it. They know they're not going to
come back.
And at this point, it's just two breaths and they're dead, and they know it. So that's one of the reasons they're have such a a zeal to take as many people with them in the great apostasy as they possibly can. That's one of the things that actually motivates them, and that's where it comes down to. That's just evil. Yeah, just evil at that point. All right. Verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Verse 17, for God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. He's the one that's making them do this. They're doing a song and dance so the other third can learn. Right. And to agree, and to give their kingdoms unto the beast, and to the words of God shall be fulfilled, which that stops for them at the second advent. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth, and that's of course the whore of Babylon. Now, remember, Babylon is a big symbol, and it's kind of a complicated one too, but it's such an interesting story. And I think our next book will probably be John that we do, but after that I want to do Daniel, because that's just the people would call Daniel the revelation of the Old Testament, and I think Daniel is a lot easier to understand, and there's a lot more that's kind of historical about it too, because he takes all the princes and he takes them to Babylon, and there's things that he does and he tells them, and all those things would work into the prophetic element. A lot of Zacharias, you can see like the four. Not just the horsemen, but there's 4 spirits that the Antichrist uses, like those 4 frogs that come out of his mouth, and you can really kind of find them in the book of Daniel as they go into captivity. World education is one of the first things Nebuchadnezzar does. I guess I'm setting up Daniel for a couple books from now. Is he puts them in college. He educates them. When he goes there, I want your youngest, your brightest minds. I want your people good with math. They understand science. They understand history. He said, I want them, and I'm going to take them with me to Babylon. So he took all the princes off with him and stuck them in school.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what God told him. He said, if you go with Nebuchadnezzar, he said, you'll stay here and just be a vassal kingdom to him, but if you fight, he's going to destroy you. And of course, and the ones that went with him had a good life, and the ones that didn't do so good. But I guess that's my plug for Daniel. But Daniel, I love Daniel. Daniel's one of my favorite Old Testament books. It's not that long a book, too. It's a pretty short one. But it's packed full of stuff. I mean, and the stuff that we refer to from this book, and when you read it within the context of Daniel, it makes a lot more sense. Because you get the whole story, then it goes with Daniel.
Right.
Where did we get to? 7? Oh, we got to the end of that one. Let's see how long we've been going. We're just probably going to stop there tonight then. I was going to go on to 18, but 18 is kind of a read because it's the fall of Babylon. It's destruction. And it's all those things. And that's the thing when next week when we start on, we'll try to do 18 and 19
I'm ready to
next week.
actually do 18 because I'm ready to see the comparison of the fall of Babylon before and this fall in Revelation.
Revelation, right. Because just look at it.
It's a repeat. We're all just repeating stuff.
That's right. And we've had earthly examples, and we've had all kinds of things happen with the fall of Babylon. Right. If you want a list of things that are not going to be in the third heaven and earth age, it's in chapter 18. This is what's not going to be there at all. And when you get to look at it, it's a lot of flesh stuff. It's just,
a lot of pain,
a lot of stuff that causes jealousy and anxiety, envy. I hate envy. That's one of the envy is one of the most horrible things.
And jealousy are the nastiest emotions.
They're so much akin.
Yeah, they are. They go together.
I do too. To be jealous just because somebody got lucky is just or work hard.
Yeah,
or just work hard. Yeah, not just got lucky, but made their own fate.
And it's most of the time it's people that don't.
Don't do anything other than jealous.
Sit around and be envious of other people.
Be other people, doing stuff. I'm not. But anyway, you guys have a good night then. We'll catch you next week. We'll be back on track pretty good then because I'm back to teaching one book again, which makes it really easy.
Makes it easier,
We'll see you guys later.
I got to mellow out, so I shouldn't have any problem being
Finish. Did I stop it?